Okay. Yeah. So, Kate, why don't you start with some of the history of the program, and since you've been with the program for a while, so yeah.
Absolutely. So the program really began in memory and honor of Christopher Kelley. Christopher Kelley was a very active AIA member as well as very active in the DC architectural community. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2012. And so a number of his local colleagues came together to form this leadership development program in his honor. Mentorship and leadership development was really one of his primary focuses as an architect and as a member of the architectural community. And this was one of his dreams, having a leadership development program, for the DC area and for AIA as a whole was something that he had a vision for and a passion for. And so Ryan McEnroe and Sean Stadler, two of the founders, came together and collaborated to form the Christopher Kelley Leadership Development Program. We launched the program in 2013. So this is our 10th year, which we're pretty excited about. It has grown exponentially since then. If you go to the next page. The program itself, on an annual basis for each of the different chapters, has had typically 16 emerging professionals that go through annually. So that's 160 people through the DC chapter. And as a part of that program, we then have also seen the program expand to a number of other locations. This year being the AIA Silicon Valley chapter, which was really exciting. This was our first West Coast program, and so we're delighted to see it go from DC to the West Coast. The program is intended to really give a group of very talented young professionals, emerging professionals, the opportunity to come together and to collaborate to form a series of 9 different sessions. And so there's a curriculum that Manju will talk about, but the sessions are very carefully selected topics centered in leadership development. The topics were initially selected through a YAF, a Young Architects Forum survey that went out that identified the different areas that people felt were most relevant to learn more from a leadership perspective on. And each half-day session dives deeper into each of those topics through a series of presentations, panel discussions, and activities that help you grow and learn through your participation in the program. The next slide shows the different locations that we have expanded to. So from DC, we moved out to Colorado, then to Detroit, Georgia, Houston, Indiana, St. Louis, Miami, and now again, the Silicon Valley area. And most of these programs have been started by people that went through the program in either DC or in another area, or people who have heard about the program through meeting with Ryan and Sean at different AIA events or hearing about it from other chapters. And so that kind of osmosis has resulted in over 500 participants now across the country, and a really tremendous network of young leaders that are able to connect on a regular basis. So we're very, very excited to continue to watch it grow. So as I mentioned, the curriculum is really developed around the different the different topics that the Young Architects Forum identified. And you can see the list of kind of core professional skills that were identified there, and those build the framework for the rest of the program. Want to jump in, Madhu?
Yeah, sure. Like Kate mentioned, we definitely have a framework of topics that the program entails to based on the survey from the Young Architects Forum. Like you can see, these are some of the things that you would generally be coming across in your profession, but you might not be doing it very intentionally or through a program in a structured way. So, for example, the art of negotiation and working together in collaboration, those are things that you're definitely doing it, especially when you're in a mid-career level of profession. You would be doing it on a day-to-day basis. Our program just helps to structure all of this knowledge that you already have in a way that translates you into a leadership position. So that's what we're trying to do here. And some of you may also be in a very specific position. For example, you might be a technical architect and not doing too much of client interactions, or you might be a project manager and probably not doing a lot of industry trends or design trends and things like that. So you always have these gaps, especially when you're working for a bigger firm. So our curriculum is very wholesome in a way that you will understand all of these different aspects of leadership through the program that we're putting together. So that's the whole idea. And we generally have a boot camp session that will hopefully happen in January, and we have 8 other sessions following that that'll have these core content sessions that you will be putting together. Whoever is getting inducted into the program, the scholars will be putting together those sessions as a class. So that is how the program is structured, and the sessions are going to be held on a monthly basis. So it is a little bit of a time commitment. That's why we ask for an agreement form from the firm, so that it doesn't overlap with your work commitments, meetings, and things like that. We generally have seen success doing it in the Friday second half, because generally you don't have a lot of work commitments, but that's something we can always talk about depending on the class's schedule and how things go. So on the next slide, if you see, we have our very basic framework of sessions that we're going to have in our 2024 Christopher Kelley Leadership Program. As you can see, the first session is more of an introduction or boot camp, where you'll be meeting the fellow scholars and you'll have an introduction to the course and how the program is structured and things like that. Apart from that, you'll also have your look ahead for the next 8 sessions and some of the brainstorming activities as a group itself. And some of the topics of interest are like some of them are mentioned about art of negotiation or leading together, entrepreneurship. So these are some of the things that we would like to focus on each session. So we'll have speakers who are really doing this for a long time. So we'll have a panel or kind of speaker combination who will be talking about these content in general, but it's more of a collaborative exercise. So it's not just about them presenting it to you, but we'll also have a activity or a project following that. So it's more of a interactive session that way. Kate, would you like to add more to it? Because I'm sure you'll have more insights on how the program's structured.
Yeah, so the way that we have this set up is we have each topic identified for the different sessions. And at the onset of the program, the selected scholars will rank their top topics. And so you'll pick which ones appeal most to you from the interest of planning a session. And then we assign 2 scholars per topic, and you're responsible for developing the content, establishing the AIA education credits, finding a location and a venue, and then making sure that the overall session runs smoothly. And so, while we have sub-bullets and ideas underneath each of those, the scholars and the program participants really shape each of the sessions based on the activities and the topics and the presentations that they bring into the session. And so the intent is that you get out of it what you put in. And so we really want you to pick a topic that you're passionate about or a topic that you want to learn more about as your session topic, and then really dive into what you can bring to your fellow scholars in terms of learning opportunities for each of these different topics. And a lot of that will be outlined and detailed in the boot camp in January, where we'll go through and we'll tell you which sessions you're going to be working on. We'll give you all the different templates for how to do the planning for the sessions, and then we'll also have kind of an overview of what the next 8 sessions will look like.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
do you want me to jump?
Okay. No, yeah, go ahead.
So, For this one, it is incredibly important that you participate in the program, and that when you apply, you're committed to coming to as many sessions as possible. And so there is a commitment and agreement form, so that is something that is understood by your firm, as well as something that you commit to as part of the application process. And this is really because we want everyone to be respectful of everyone else's time and their commitment to the program, and to make sure that the people that we're selecting really want to be participants. And so we do also understand that life happens, and so if something comes up and you have to miss one of the sessions, that's okay. But if you have to miss more than one session, that will be something that will be a further discussion with the executive committee, and we have in the past leveraged a fine process for people that start to miss multiple sessions. It really does take away from the overall program as a whole. The program is intended to have 5 credits per session for a total of 45 CEUs. And we do target at least half of those to be HSW credits. So there is a tremendous credit opportunity with this program, and those do roll over, which is very helpful for the next couple of years of maintaining your AIA membership.
Yes, to add to Kate's information regarding commitment, currently we are envisioning these sessions to be in person, because that helps in better collaboration, and you getting to know the scholars, and just easy to so that it's more of a graduating class, right? So in order for us to have that connection. But having said that, we are opening this scholarship program, we are opening this program to all of the Bay Area chapters. So we have people from San Francisco, San Mateo, East Bay, and Silicon Valley. So these are the 4 major chapters that are interested in applying for the program. So depending on the level of interest and the scholars, we would be okay with going for a hybrid session for some of them, but predominantly it's going to be an in-person, right? So that is what we're targeting. In case if you have more questions on that, we can always answer. But it is flexible on that aspect. So that's all I wanted to add. And when it comes to the application details, it's I would say a little bit of an elaborate material packet that we're looking for. Definitely, I'm sure if you've gone through the website, you would have seen there is a requirement of a letter of interest and a recommendation letter, your resume, and an agreement form from the firm stating that it's okay for them. It's okay for you to attend these sessions on a Friday or so, just so we understand the firm is in agreement with that. With your attendance here. But regarding what the jury is actually looking for, Kate can give you more insights on some of these application materials. Kate, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the personal resume as a starting point, we are not looking for your firm standard resume that you would submit as part of a project RFP response. We want these to be very personalized. We want to understand who you are as an individual, and we want to be able to get a snapshot of your involvement and engagement within the community. So it's certainly okay to include some of your project experience in your employment history, but also look at what you're doing outside. Look at your activities, your volunteer experience, publications, honors, and awards. Limit it to 2 pages, please. And again, make sure that it's not just a generic firm resume. For the letters of recommendation, certainly you have to have at least one. The top count is 3. And we're again looking for letters of recommendation that speak to who you are as a person. So again, references that would come from not only people within your firm, but also some of your external contacts, other people at the AIA, other people with volunteer programs that you work with, or any of your external activities, people from your past education experience. One of my letters of recommendation came from a professor I had at college. I had another one from USGBC. And so again, creating and painting a very well-rounded picture of who you are is very helpful for the jurors. And then the letter of interest, um, again, should have kind of that same quality. Why are you interested in this program? What do you think you're going to get out of it? And also, what do you think you'll be able to bring to the program as a participant and a scholar? So there are just a couple of the things that the committee will be looking into when they review your application. And, you know, we usually get a large number of these, and so anything you can do to make yourself a standout is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to add to that, so in case the in terms of volunteer opportunity, it doesn't have to be something very exceptional. You might think that it's a very small thing. For example, you probably have worked on a pro bono project within your own firm, or you're part of ACE mentorship, or you're part of ANOMA as a uh, project pipeline mentor, or you're just part of the your local AIA chapter and helping out with some events, right? So you might think it's very much related to work, but you know, we always have this gray area as architects, like our work and volunteering uh, or giving back to the community. So I think even if it's a very small contribution that you've done, so those are all a few things you would want to highlight as a professional, because obviously as a professional you have your own set of projects, portfolio and list of things you've done as a professional, but I'm sure you'll always have the other side of things that is community centric. So if you have a balance of both, that would be a very great application. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah. So next, we're gonna go over the logistics of getting around the website in general and where you can find the application and things like that. So for some of you who've already checked the website or someone who's interested in checking, so if you just go to our AIA Silicon Valley page, there are this list of subtopics that we have. If you go to the resources tab, there is a link for leadership development program. If you click on that, you will be able to see uh, our homepage. So that looks like this. Um, so here you'll have all the information about the program. If you want, I can also copy this link and paste it in the chat. So if somebody wants to look at it, they can do so. So, but it talks about when the application is due, and has some testimonials from other chapters. The participants talking about the program and how it has helped them as a professional, and it also has some of the basic things that we went through, the curriculum and the schedule with actual dates. So these are the dates that we're shooting for in case if you want to plan ahead before applying and see if there's any conflict and things like that. And we do have all the submission requirements listed for the application that Kate and I went through. And at the end of it, you have this icon of submit application. If you just click on that, you'll be able to see the application, which has some of the very basic detailed requirements from your end. Like if you're a Silicon Valley member, or if you're an AIA member from another chapter with your number, because it's easy for us to coordinate CEUs or HSWs if we have the number, and any other qualification that you may have. Apart from that, there are some general questions about when did you graduate and when did you get your license and what are the projects that you work on and things like that. But apart from that, we have certain questions that might require more time. For example, we are specifically asking for some of the issues and opportunities in the profession, just to understand your point of view, apart from the application materials that we already have. And what are your hopes and expectations from the program? And in the past, how have you demonstrated leadership within the profession, within your firm, or within the community? It can be anything. So you can definitely write about all that. So these are some of the extra questions that we have apart from the application materials that we talked about. And you have all the link to upload all of these as a separate PDF documents. So you have a link for letter of interest, recommendation, resume, agreement form from the firm. Apart from that, we also have a tuition assistance form for people who will not be able to, or who might find it difficult to afford the programs, we have a fee of $450 for AIM members and $550 for non-AIM members. Generally, if you're coming through a big firm, or if um, you will be able to get it reimbursed by the firm, because depending on the firm policies. But if you're an individual practitioner, or if you're coming from a firm that's less than 10 people, or if you have any other financial constraints, we also have an option for tuition assistance that you can fill out and submit along with your application. So we have a certain percentage. So if we have 16 scholars, we will have a percentage of people who would be able to get that scholarship depending on the need and requirement. So that's something the committee will assess and let the participants know. But there is an option to do it. If you think that is a hindrance, you can always do that. That's also an option that we have. So Kate, do you like to add something?
Yeah, so if you go back up to those questions just quickly,
Mm-hmm.
I do want to note that we have a 1,000 character limit on those. So we're looking for short, concise answers. So characters, not words. And we very much recommend that you write those out in some kind of a word processing document before you submit them, just so that you have record of them if something happens to the application as you go through the process, but also so that you can spell check, grammar check, and check your character count before you submit. And I think it would be good, just to have a folder somewhere with all of this information, all of your letters of recommendation, your application, your agreement form, that you can easily access and pull into this, just in case something happens as you go through the upload process. We have had that happen in the past where it's crashed and we've lost people's responses to these, and there's at times nothing we can do about that, and they have to start over. So we do recommend having a backup. And then in terms of the agreement form, that's something that people often forget. So I would make sure that you get that and get that signed, and make sure that that's something that you have is easy to overlook. It's one of the simpler pieces of information, but it must be signed by both yourself and your firm in order to be considered for the application of things that we've encountered in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's just about the logistics of the program in general. And we did kind of go over this in the website, right? The application cycle, so it starts in January and goes on till September. We do have a boot camp as a first session planned in January, which will be in person, and the last closing ceremony and the session 8. That'll also be definitely in person, but the sessions in between could be a hybrid depending on what the scholars or the class decides. But currently, these are the dates that we have for the program. So, Kit, would you like to talk about the boot camp and closing ceremony in general? Like, how is it done, or the importance of those two? Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the boot camp is really the session where you will set up the framework for the rest of the program. And so we bring together all of the scholars. You get to know one another. We often do a pacha, just quick introductions as to why you're interested in the program, what you think about leadership, and really start to get to know one another, build camaraderie. You'll be assigned your topic for the year. And so you'll be assigned your partner, and you have the opportunity to spend some time planning out that session. And then we also do a series of activities that look at each of the different topics and really try to understand what you're hoping to get out of each of those sessions. So with, for example, community engagement or industry trends, we will have everybody go around and quickly ideate on things that would be of relevance to the class within each of those topics. And that's where we can start to pull out some of the things that are important to your region and to the West Coast that might be very different than what we're seeing in the Washington, D.C. or St. Louis areas, and start to personalize each of those sessions. And then that information helps to inform your planning for the session, and can help brainstorm ideas and start to build a list of agenda items and potentially even speakers that might be relevant for you to bring to each of the sessions. And then the closing session is an opportunity to also just take a few minutes and look back. So in addition to talking about the topic, which is the future of architecture, there'll be a reflection activity that will give you some time to think about what you've learned from the program and what you plan to carry forward into the future, as well as to then help inform the committee about what they could continue to do, things that went really well and things that they would have the opportunity to improve upon in the future. And then the general format has been that after each of the sessions, we tend to have a happy hour. And so all of the scholars go somewhere after the session and again, continue to build that camaraderie and to talk about the different topics that came up in their sessions for that particular. So there's a little bit of fun afterwards as well.
Yeah. And these are some of the testimonials that we have from participants and from firms who invested in the emerging professionals through this program and how they've benefited from the program.
There's a lot of information. Are there any questions about the program or the application or what comes next?
I guess I have a question. Maybe I didn't catch that, but the first session and the last session, it's in person, but where is that?
Oh,
so the intent is that I believe as many of them will be in person as possible, right, Madhu?
yes. I mean, we don't have a venue planned yet, but it will be in the Bay Area, like probably in the South Bay. So we should be able to access it easily, but you will have more information on that in the coming months, in the next month or so. Yeah.
I see. I just want to
And
understand
the
it's roughly in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be in the Bay Area because the program is just open to Bay Area applicants. So it will be in the Bay Area predominantly since it's from Silicon Valley in Gem. So it'll be in South Bay, but if we have good number of participants from both SF and South Bay, it's probably somewhere going to be in between, but it's going to be very much accessible to all of you. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
And for the other sessions, the executive committee will determine where the boot camp and the last session are held. The other sessions will be selected in terms of a venue by the different participants. So each scholar is responsible for planning the location of their sessions. And that can be, other architecture offices, it can be museums, art galleries. You have a wide array of opportunities to pick something that's really fun in terms of a place.
I have a question regarding the topics that we will be developing. Are they linked to each session category, or it can be independent? You mentioned
yeah. So each session has a theme, and then
Yes.
within that theme, you can sort of craft your own agenda and your own curriculum.
Okay, so it has to be something linked to each theme, and we don't necessarily, if I understand correctly, it has to be connected. It has to be something cohesive. So it's okay. That's clear.
As a follow-up to that, will it be like planned for the entire duration or a portion? Because I see there might be guest speakers and panels, right? Or will we have to plan the entire 12 to 5 session?
You're responsible for the entire 12 to 5 session.
Okay.
So it's usually 3 speakers or panels or sort of 3 topics if you're going to space it out, because we usually have a couple of minutes for people to arrive, and then there's lunch, and then you plan for the breaks in between. And so by the time you get done, it's usually about 3.
All right.
Yes, and since it's 16 participants and 8 session, everyone will be planning one session, right? So that's how it is going to be. So you'll be in pairs and you'll not be doing it alone. So you will be two people planning a session. So in the whole of 8 sessions, each one will be planning at least one session. That's the idea. That depending on your schedule commitments, you can choose those dates in the very first bootcamp session. Because obviously for planning a session, there's some level of groundwork that you need to put in. So those are things that you can figure out on the first session. But it's generally one person per session, at least. That is the structure that we have.
And you're not planning them alone. So in addition to the person that you're paired with for that session, you'll have a couple of planning calls in advance with the committee and Madhu. And so you can vet ideas and topics, or if you're looking for speakers, people can make recommendations. We're happy to share the wide array of different session agendas that have happened for ideas from other chapters. And with the increase in technology, we're also seeing people do a lot more virtual engagement with some of the speakers. So you can have a mix of virtual speakers or in-person speakers if you have somebody that's really particular that you want to speak but don't necessarily want to fly them out to the area.
Two more questions. I'm not sure if you covered this already. What is the approximate length of each session? Is it like a full day? How is it? How does it work? Like, how many hours approximately? Did
So
you
it's
already
like
mention
a half day session
Day.
that we
Okay.
have. So yeah, that's what we'll have lunch. I mean, if it's going to be in person, we'll have lunch, and then we'll have these speaker sessions spaced out. That's how it's going to be, but it's going to be predominantly half a day. 12 to 5 is what we had previously, but that's something that we can work around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, those sessions, are they intended to be only, are they intended to be attended only by the participants? For example, if we host an event in one of our offices, for example, can someone else from the office attend if they find the topic interesting? Just to observe.
We've generally limited it to the participants. Sometimes we let the speakers stay. So if you have somebody that's speaking at 1 o'clock and they are interested in staying through the rest of the session, we'll let them attend. But we do try to keep it to a smaller group to encourage the conversation and the dialogue and the questions that happen.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So after, I remember some of the, I think it was from the video, or I'm not sure where I'm not recollecting where I read this, but after graduation, will there be some kind of time commitment required for the future class?
So only if you volunteer to join the committee.
Okay.
So as we move towards the end of the program and we move into session 7 and 8, the intent is that the committee will start to be formed from participants from the past year. So you could be the graphics chair or the communications chair or website or sponsorship. There are a number of different roles that people have volunteered for because they like the program and want to stay engaged.
All right.
And so that will be an opportunity if you're interested after the program wraps up.
All right, that makes sense.
Sorry, I missed this question. This program has any credit after finish up all the program, or like any kind of certification?
So the program is eligible for AIA credits, and so each session you attend is upwards of 5 credits from the AIA, and then half of those are usually HSW credits, and then there is a certificate that you get at the end upon graduation that identifies your participation and certifies that you completed the program.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll have it during our closing ceremony as a, like it's more of how we would graduate from a program in general. So that is the idea that we have for the closing ceremony.
I have one question. Just in the last couple of years, like how many people did you see join this program? Like or like in each class, how many people attend?
So it's 16 scholars per program, and then right now we're upwards of, we've got 9 locations currently, and will be the 10th. So this upcoming year, the 23-24 class will have 160 people. So we're well over 500 participants over the last 10 years.
I see.
Yeah. I think it's predominantly in the like those chapters that we talked about in the East Coast. And every chapter will have 16 participants. So that's how we have structured the program. So we are hoping for 16 participants from the Bay Area also, including all the chapters that I mentioned. So from all the 4 chapters is what we are hoping for. Yeah. You
I
can.
have one last question.
Mhm.
So a lot of my recommenders are asking who to address it to, and I've told them to address the letter of recommendation to the 2024 Executive Committee of Christopher Kelley Leadership Program. Is that correct, or is it like
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's perfect.
And thank you so much for attending it. And I would encourage everybody to apply. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the program. Yeah.